so I can see it from a distance. Well, this morning we're going to look at a story that usually most of us are all familiar with. This is probably one of the most popular stories that we've ever talked about. This is one of the most popular stories to teach kids. Daniel in the lion's den. We've been looking at the life of Daniel. We've been looking at the minor prophets. Looking at Daniel and his friends. All right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Does anyone remember their Hebrew names? Ooh. No one remembers? Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. She's cheating. She's reading the Bible. That's okay. That's the whole idea of this, is so we read it and we look at it. Does anyone remember what Daniel's Babylonian name was? Belteshazzar. So the reason I say that, we're going to read through it today. The names are going to get interchanged a couple different times. Realize you're talking about the same people. All right? They had, as the Babylonians captured the Hebrew children, they renamed them. And the reason they renamed them, we want to change your identity. We want you to identify as a Babylonian, not as a Hebrew. Not to mention, Hebrew names always reflected the Hebrew God. The Babylonian names reflected the Babylonian gods. So that's why they renamed them. They want to change their identity. Look, this isn't an odd thing. This stuff still happens today. I can say it right now. We do it in the military. The first thing we do, everyone comes in the military. Almost everybody here goes by their first name, right? You know, Bob, this, that, yeah. As soon as you get in the military, what do? Hey, we're going to go by your last name. Why? We want to change this idea of individuality you have. For men, the first thing we do, we're going to shave your head. We're going to take away your clothes. We're going to dress you all the same. We're going to make you look the same. And we're going to dress you all, well, if you're lucky, they'll call you recruit. Usually they call you many other names, much more colorful. They try to take away your individuality. Why? Because we're trying to mold you into what we want. All right? This has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. You know, everyone asks, why does the military do it? Because it works. You guys didn't know this, and hey, I learned this, and it's a fun fact that a Marine recruit, Marines are unique in our training, that out of boot camp, you're certifiably crazy. Not much has changed. But the reason they do it's only legal because our government does it. If anyone else did it, you'd go to prison. So, unique thing, but the whole idea is that they were trying to change their identity. The unique thing with Daniel and his buddies is they said, we're not going to give up our Hebrew identity. We are going to lean into who we are, realize who God is, and we've made a decision in our lives that we're not going to stray from God. I mean, that's what we've been looking at the last few weeks. The first week we talked about how Daniel's friends, they said, hey, look, we're not going to change our diet. We're not going to eat the king's meat. We are going to stick to our Hebrew diet. Realized they were Jews. Jews had a very strict diet. Now, I've actually talked about this before. There's actually very good reason that God gave them this diet. One was to show obedience, but another one was, hey, you don't eat pork. Well, why don't you eat pork? They didn't have refrigeration in those days. Their ability to preserve meats was not very good. If you ever deal with pork, pork rots from the inside out. So if you look at pork, it can look fine, everything can look good about it, but it can make you sick and kill you. They were allowed to eat beef. Does anyone know how beef rots? Outside in. You can see that it's bad. That was one of those things. If you actually look at a lot of the Hebrews' diet, it was to avoid things that would kill them. Just kind of a unique historical thing. What's that? Yeah, with pork, you don't always. It's from the inside out. Yep. But there's a lot of things within their diet, and that was the reason that they had some of these dietarical restrictions. But that's just a history thing for you. It's just kind of a unique thing that, hey, they didn't want to stray from it. They had already set in their mind. This was kind of their first decision to say, look, we are going to stick to our Hebrew identity. Now, they were still being educated. They were still doing everything that was expected of them, but they weren't going to give up their Hebrew identity. Later on, we see that, hey, Nebuchadnezzar went. He made the golden idol to himself. He did the ultimate, TV villain thing. I made a statue of me standing in front of the statue of me. And they came out and they said, look, everyone was going to kneel down and worship this. Well, it was well known that Daniel's boys, they don't worship. They're Hebrews. They don't do it. Well, of course, they had decided in their heart, look, we're not going to go against our God. They were thrown in. They lived. The guys who threw them in died. King Nebuchadnezzar realized who God was. He even announced that he knew who God was, but he would not submit to God.
But he did say later that then he could have talked to God, their God.
Mm-hmm.
They would.
He did. He acknowledged who God was. It's kind of a thing for us to realize. We can acknowledge and know who God is, realize the power of God, and still not submit and put ourselves under God's authority. King Nebuchadnezzar acts as a warning for us. He was given all power, and he even acknowledged that God gave it to him, and yet refused to follow God. He watched the amazing things that the God of Daniel had done and said, hey, look, you should not go against this God, and yet still would not submit to him. It cost him. He ended up, going crazy and getting to eat in the field like a cow. Great stuff. But these are the stories we're looking at. So this is one that many of us learned as a child. We're talking about Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel gets thrown in the lion's den. Now, all of us that have read this story or seen the pictures, you guys remember the little felt boards up in Sunday school? I grew up still with the felt board, and you put the little felt guys on, and of course when the teacher was gone, we'd go grab extras and put them all up there and have Jesus floating upside down, all sorts of weird stuff. This felt board, you always saw Daniel in the lion's den. So you have Daniel, and how old was Daniel? He's a teenager, right?
The lion's den, he was a little older.
A little bit older, maybe young man, maybe 20s.
20s, mid-20s.
Yeah. Do you guys know how old he really was? He was in his late 80s.
That's older.
In the lion's den. When he was thrown in the lion's den, he was an old man. See, we all get to it. I did the same thing. I'm like, really? Well, let me go look at this. And you read through. No, Daniel had gone in his life. What had happened was, Daniel was on. Nebuchadnezzar had gone crazy. There's a new king. He's working for the king. Now remember, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had all been put in charge of things. Well, during this time, Daniel had come up. Daniel was somewhat of a politician. He'd been put in charge of everything. Actually, he was one of the presidents of the kingdom. Okay, if you don't understand how it went, there were 3 presidents who reported to the king, and under the presidents were all the princes. All right? So he's one of the top. Actually, he was first among the presidents. So he's number 2 in the entire country. Daniel is.
And he was the one that Nebuchadnezzar would go to and ask,
Yep.
what is your God saying, and what is this, and will we win this, or will we...
Yep.
And he was the one he was going to for information.
And as he was saying, Nebuchadnezzar and this other king would always come to Daniel and be like, hey, is this your God? Is your God say we're going to win? He was his advisor. He was a spiritual leader. They understood the power of God. They wouldn't submit to him, but they didn't mess with Daniel because they knew that Daniel was protected by God. Well, what happened is Daniel came up. He's an old man at this point. He was a political leader, and actually the king wanted to make him number 2. He wanted to put him above, make him the only president above the entire country. So basically there's the king and Daniel running everything. Now, has anyone ever been involved in politics? Or even work politics? Not willingly? That's kind of me. Politics. One thing you find out about politicians, They all like power. And you know what most of them don't like? Someone else being more powerful than them. I mean, it's just a fact of life. You don't get into politics, into being a senator, a congressman, president, vice president, without kind of caring about you. I mean, our president is a perfect example. Where does he like to put his name? Everywhere, on everything. Yes, ma'am. Third ruler in the kingdom. I apologize. Third ruler. My bad. So, number 3. So he was the, in our terms, would be the Speaker of the House. All right, number 3 in the country. So that'd be how we are designed in the United States. You have the President, Vice President, Speaker of the House. Number 3 in the country. So he's ascended. Here's the problem. Daniel's not a Babylonian. He's made it well known he's not a Babylonian. I will never stray from who I am. And if you read in here, they call him Belshazzar, but he kind of transitions back and forth between Daniel and Belshazzar. He'll actually answer to both names. He has kept up his Hebrew culture. And one of the things that you find out is Daniel's very well known that 3 times a day he goes to his house with the windows and doors open and prays to God. Every day. Well known. All these other politicians don't like Daniel. They want his position. So what they did is they come up with a great idea. They're like, look, we're going to make a saying that have the king pronounce a law that nobody can pray to any other god but the king. Sound familiar? Sound kind of like Nebuchadnezzar did? Hey, everyone's going to worship this idol. And then they go, oh, but Daniel's not doing it. He's not doing it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're not doing it. They're not kneeling down. We need to get rid of them. Well, now, nothing changes. They come up. They're like, hey, you need to pronounce this. No one can pray to any other god but the king, knowing full well what's Daniel going to do. He prays to God 3 times a day, every day. And some people read this and be like, oh, well, maybe Daniel didn't know that the law was there. Oh, he knew. He knew. We even look at this. In Daniel 6, verses 6 through 10. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said, thus unto the king Darius live forever. This is the new king, obviously. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes and the counselors and the captains have consulted together and established a royal statute to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save, O thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, so basically it's like, look, all the representatives, all the senators, all the groups that are in charge, all the local municipalities, all agreed to this. It's putting it in our terms. You know that something usually pretty bad is going on in our government when everybody agrees? It's usually not a good thing, to be honest. It's kind of the same thing here. Things haven't changed that much. They all got together and they said, hey, this was hatched to get at Daniel. This is a plan. They're like, this is how we're going to get rid of him. This guy is high up. He's been blessed by God. The king listens to him. He's got the king's ear. He's done all this stuff. He's in the position that I want. I'm sick of seeing this Hebrew in charge of everything. Now, he's in his late 80s. He's not a young man. Just wait for him to die. Nope, can't do that. So we're going to get rid of him. Now, O king, establish this decree and sign the writing that it be not changed according to the law of Medes the Persians, which altereth not. So basically, all of them got together, went to the king, and I don't know how the king doesn't catch on to this. They're like, hey, you need to make this decree. And then we need to make it so it cannot be changed. There's no way out of it. There's no way you can give somebody a way out. So they were trying to kind of paint him into a corner. And it worked. Like, hey, king, you can't change it. You can't give a presidential pardon. All right? You can't get anybody out of it. This is the law. It's unchangeable. Here's what it is. And for the next 30 days, if anybody does anything, they get thrown to the den of lions. Now, this was a common punishment amongst the Babylonians. Throw people to the den of lions. I guess they didn't have very good entertainment. You think about today, what do we get to do? I mean, literally in your pocket, your phone, you can watch just about in 2 minutes, it'd have any movie ever made up. Television, you can scroll, who's endlessly doom scrolled YouTube? Ooh, cat videos, and more cat videos. And you look at mine, and it's like, how to repair this? Ooh, if this is happening in your car. It's what I do. We have entertainment. They didn't have entertainment, dude. I mean, what games do they have? We have video games. I grew up in the 80s, so we had lawn darts. Anyone remember those? Like they're outlawed now? Because, kids were killing each other with them. And I don't know why. I mean, my parents gave them to us, and they thought it was a great idea. And what was our favorite game that we used to play? We didn't throw it at each other. Our game was you take one lawn dart and you throw it up, straight up in the air, as high as you can, and see who would stay there longer for it to land. Got that close to losing a toe, I don't know how many times. That was our idea of entertainment. We go to Bob's Day, they had a stick and a hoop. I don't know. You played kick the can. Yeah, see, there you go. See, it's rich. Well, the Babylonians didn't have that. What they did for great entertainment, it's like, hey, let's go throw someone in and watch lions tear them apart. Sounds like a great time, right? Yeah. This was a common thing that they used. Now, one of the things not mentioned here is just kind of one of those neat things I thought was neat. Yes, ma'am. Romans were later. This is pre-Romans. Yep. Pre-gladiator. This Romans probably got it from the Babylonians, to be honest. But it was used as a way to punish people. Now, one of the things you don't realize, it's like, okay, you have a den of lions. If anyone's ever dealt with a lion, even in Africa, they'll have problems with lions. They'll get what they call a man-eater lion. If it becomes a man-eater lion, the only thing you can do is kill it. Because a man-eater lion gets a taste for human flesh and will not eat anything else. See, we all remember the felt pictures of Daniel in the lion's den? And there's all these little lions, they're just kind of laying around and everything's right? These lions lived off of tearing people apart. What do you think they looked like? Do you think they looked like soft, nice, neat little lions? No, they probably had blood stains, they're scarred, they were evil. They were mean. They were good for nothing but killing people. You could put in regular food in there. They probably would have ignored it because they had a taste for human flesh. If this happens today, it becomes a big deal in Africa. You send out a search party to go hunt down the lion and kill it because it's a man-eater and it will continue to kill men. That's all it will do. Well, these guys were fed a steady diet of people. This was evil, okay? This wasn't a young, virile man. This is a man in his late 80s. We're going to go put him in the lion's den. So not only we want to see Daniel taken out, we want him taken out in the most gruesome, cruel, evil way that we could think of. This was to be a message. This wasn't just, hey, we're getting rid of him. We want to show what we're going to do to these Hebrews. He's not Babylonian. I don't care who you are and how far you've risen. We're going to get rid of you. Even knowing this is the king's dude, we conspired against the king to get rid of him. We want to show what power we have. See, there's a lot going on that we kind of overlook. So now we look at verse 8. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing that it be not changed according to the law of Medes the Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing, and the decree. Now, see, here's the part that's great. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being opened to his chamber towards Jerusalem, he knelt down upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before God as he did it aforetime. Some people say, maybe Daniel didn't know. What's the Bible tell us? No, he was probably there. Realize he's one of the top guys in the government. I watched him sign it. Okay, it's good. It's signed now? Cool. Let me go to my house. I'm going to go pray. And I'm probably not just going to be like, oh, Lord, thank you for that. You know what he probably did? Oh, God of all, here am I, your servant, Daniel, once again, kneeling before you. Because I look at it this way, he's probably an honorary fart, is what he is. He's a man in his late 80s, has been here, I've been there, done that. God's protecting me through anything. I'm not scared. So what happens? They go, they take him up. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Did I say Nebuchadnezzar? I'm sorry. It's King Darius. My bad. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing. Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar's crazy at this point. So, King Darius is taken over. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So, these men assembled and found Daniel praying, making supplication before God. Then came near and they spake before the king concerning the king's decree. So, basically, hey, the guys call, heard him. Hey, they go to the king. Hey, Daniel's doing it. You sign this. You have to do it. You have to throw him in the lion's den. You need to do this. So, of course, he did. He was kind of backed into a corner. So, and down here in verse 16 it says, Then the king commanded and brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, this is kind of the unique part. Like I said, Daniel had been Nebuchadnezzar's guy until he went crazy. Now you got a new king, King Darius. Guess what? Daniel's his guy. Well, why is Daniel his guy? Because he's smart. He has the wisdom of God. He interprets dreams. He gives wise counsel. He said, look, your God can tell us what's going to happen. Your God is protecting. All I have to do is put Daniel in peril, and his God protects Daniel, which protects the rest of us.
Daniel also has integrity.
And Daniel does. He has integrity. He'll tell you, yes, no. He's not your average politician. All right? He's not saying what you want to hear. He's just spitting out what he knows to be the truth. So let me see. Let's see. There he goes. The king commanded, and they brought him. Now the king spake unto Daniel, Thy God, whom thou servest continually, will deliver thee. Even the king knew, hey, we're going to put you in the lion's den, but I think your God's going to deliver you. Now here's the kicker. Do you think Daniel thought his God would deliver him? Yeah. And if not, I don't care. I'm going somewhere better. Funniest thing is, I think the king was like, hey, your God's going to deliver you, right? I don't want to lose you. You're a great asset. He knew who Daniel's God was. You see a recurring theme with the Babylonians? We know who God is, and we know his power, but we're not willing to submit.
That's what Daniel was giving them the answer, basically, of what God was telling him.
Yep.
And they didn't like the answer because he was telling them how they're being defiant towards God and that you would not win.
Yep.
You know, that these things were going to happen, and that's what pissed them off the most. That caused them to want to throw him in there.
Yep. Over and over. Daniel would say, look, this is what God's telling me. What do you think is going to happen? This is what's going to happen. Why? Because you've defiled God. You refuse to follow God. You're not doing these things. Well, we don't like your answer. You know, it's like going to the doctor. And you're like, hey, I'm sick. And the doctor says, well, you're 30 pounds overweight and you eat lousy and you need to exercise. Well, I don't like that answer. It's not going to change it. Well, I'm going to go find another doctor. Yeah, what good's it going to do you? I might find one that says, oh, no, you're great. I'm going to die, but he'll say, I'll feel good about it, I guess. You know, it's the whole idea I always said, love. You know, which doctor loves you? The one that tells you that, hey, you're overweight, you need to change your diet, you need to exercise, there's things in your life you need to change, or the one that says, hey, everything's fine. Yeah. Yeah. The one that actually loves you is the one that's telling you the thing that's probably uncomfortable. And they might not even be nice about it. Look, I have a doctor. She's this big. All right? Amish. Comes from an Amish family. Starpin trooper. About this big. And she says the nastiest, meanest things to me. But she does it because she cares. Well, you need to change your diet. You have a fatty liver. We'll tell it to knock it off. And she's not nice about it. Well, you're fat. Really? She goes, well, I'm not saying anything. Look, I know lots of fat people, but you're one of them. Seriously? I could hurt you. You won't. But she cares. She actually tells me what I need to hear. I don't like it, but she tells me what I need to hear. Daniel did the same thing. And they're like, okay, we're going to kill you for it. So now they go to throw him in. This is all background, but they go to throw him in. The king has a horrible night. He can't sleep. He's upset. He doesn't know what's happening. He's worried about Daniel. Of course, he goes in there next morning. Daniel, you in there? Yeah, I'm good. Why? All these man-eating lions that they do nothing more than tear people apart are just chilling around me. Why? God's an angel. Why? Because he's God and I'm Daniel. What? Because he yells in Belshazzar. Now, he might have answered, but you know what he was thinking in my head? Yeah, but I'm Daniel. I'm also God's man. God's going to take care of me. And God did. God took great care of him. The reason I said we want to kind of go through this is we always look at it, we always think of Daniel as a young man. No, he's a crotchety old fart, is what he is. He's an ornery old man who said, hey, look, have you not looked at my life and seen that I will not go against God? I'll sit here and calmly watch you sign the law that says I'm going to get thrown in the lion's den and then immediately go to my house and make sure everybody knows that I'm praying to God. Oh, what's that? Yep. Well, I hadn't got to that part. But yes.
Yeah, once Nebuchadnezzar found out they threw him in there behind his back. It wasn't somebody was pissed
Darius.
off that they threw him in there.
Once
And
King,
when they came out, they put them in there.
yeah, basically once King Darius said, hey, Daniel lived. He made it. He's coming back out. I'm mad at everybody that conspired against my guy who backed me into a corner. See, this is where politics kind of backfired. Because our plan was to push you into a corner and to show that we had more power. Unfortunately, we did it against God's man. Bad idea. God protected him. Now, King's like, you tried to manipulate me, tried to take out my guy, now I'm going to get rid of all of you. So everyone that conspired against him, they got thrown in good Babylonian fashion to make it more more grotesque. They throw in them, all their family, their mastery. I guess I could look down. So cast them in the lion, their children, their wives, and the lions had had the mastery of them and break their bones to pieces, and ever they come to the bottom of the den. So yeah, basically as they came in, they just tore them apart. Tore it apart so bad they just snapped their bones. Pretty gnarly. Yes, sir.
And before they reached the bottom of the pit.
Yeah. By the time they hit the bottom, they were in pieces.
Yeah. The lions were not happy about Daniel.
No. I don't know if it's the angel of God kind of went in and was like, no, you're not allowed to eat them, but I'm going to rile you up for the next crew. We don't know. You know, he said, I'm a jarhead, I'm a Marine. We used to do that stuff. We get the guys kind of excited. We get them all tore up. It's like, no, you're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to do anything. And then we get you angry and mad. That's why they put Marines on the boat with the Navy. We figured this out. We're going to keep you cramped up on a boat until you're just ready to rip everyone apart. And then we're going to get to the beach and say, now go. That's how we took over beachheads. You got a bunch of crazy guys in there. Easy. Not certifiably anymore. So this is one of those stories we've all heard as a child. As an adult, we hear it a little different. Because we're looking at, oh, as a kid, okay, he got in trouble, and oh, he had a nice night with all the lions, and they took care of him. No, that's not exactly what happened. There's a bunch going on in the background. It's a political story. It's showing the power of God. It's showing all these things that are working. And it's once again Daniel showing, look, the God of the Hebrews is the God. Will you turn? Of course, the Babylonians never do. What happens to the Babylonian kingdom? It's completely destroyed. Utterly and totally. You realize God gave them every opportunity to turn to Him? I'm going to send my guy and show you how powerful I am. Do you think if the Babylonians turned to God, that the Babylonian kingdom would have been great? Oh, it would have been much better. It would have been much better. They had already conquered everything. But they refused. No, we put ourselves above God. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you a chance. Never mind, we're getting rid of you. It happened. It happened all the time. It happened all the time with the Jews. It happens every day with us. Hey, things are hard. We're going to follow God. Hey, things are going pretty good. We're going to quit following God. Hey, God says what? What am I going to do? I'm going to throw you into captivity. Why? So you learn to follow and rely upon me again. Things are getting good. Yeah. All these things happen, and we ignored everything that was going on. What we want to look at is the life of Daniel, what this meant to Daniel's life, and why Daniel was able to do all of these things. Because realize Daniel wasn't, he was special, yes, that he was smart, he was good looking, he was obviously wise, but he was all these things because he followed God. He had determined in his life, and he had a lifetime of following God and doing exactly those things that God had told him to do. Do you think if he had been asked to do this as a young man that maybe he'd have been able to do it? He might not have. He might have gotten scared. If someone told me, hey, if you go in your house and pray out loud to God and we hear it, I'm going to cast you into a den of lions. Do you think I'd have maybe looked in my heart and been like, hey, you know what? I can still pray. I'll just do it real quiet. Are you going to kneel? Well, I'll just kind of bow my head. Dear Lord, please watch over us. Amen. You've been scared. We'd all been scared. We've all been scared. How many of us go into a restaurant and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to bow my head. I'm going to pray out loud so everyone can hear. Well, man, I don't want to make it inconvenient for anybody else. It might be embarrassing. They might not appreciate it. I'll be honest, as a new Christian, that's a scary thing. As a Christian been doing it a long time, you probably don't think much of it. Hey, let's pray. Hey, dear Lord, we want to bless this food, bless this time together. Hey, let everyone here have a great time. And if anyone needs to, curious about your word, please feel free to come forward and talk to us. Amen. Right? Not a big deal. Might not be a big deal now because you've determined in your heart you're going to do it. But when you're a new Christian, how hard was that? It can be embarrassing. It can be uncomfortable. It can be weird. Daniel had set in his heart that he's going to follow God and do what God had him do. So now as he's an old man, you're threatening him with death. Well, you know what? Sometimes you're like, dude, don't threaten me with a good time. What do you mean? Either my God will protect me, or if he doesn't, I'll be in paradise. What's the big deal? I'm already old. I hurt everywhere. I get up in the morning and it sounds like a bowl of Rice Krispies. I have to deal with all of you who are always scheming behind my back. What's the big deal? See, Daniel got to that point in his life. But he also knew that God would protect him. And realized the way we grow as Christians is through discomfort. It's through trial. You don't get tougher by having everything given to you. You don't get stronger and more resilient by not getting hit. I'll go with a great philosopher, maybe some of you have heard, named Rocky. It's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and get back up. Sometimes God's like, look, hey, I'm going to make you Rocky. You might not be smart, but you'll be tough. Yeah, Adrian. I grew up in the Marine Corps, and I remember my drill instructors all the time saying, you might not be a smart Marine, but you're going to be a strong Marine. Because when you did something wrong, IT, in the pit, push-ups, sit-ups, making sugar cookies, doing everything. He's like, dude, you might not be smart, but you're going to be tough. Another one of my great philosophers, the Duke. Life is tough. It's tougher when you're stupid. Sometimes we need to take a little bit of a beating, but it makes us harder, stronger, able to take things. God knows that. God will protect us through those times. Do you think Daniel went to that lion's den? He's like, look, I know God's going to protect me. I'm going to go to the pit. I'm going to go to that bad place. I'm going to go to that place where maybe I feel helpless. I feel maybe a little apathetic. I feel overwhelmed that I'm fighting everything and everyone, and there's nothing I can do. We're going to feel that way as Christians. We're going to have some apathy. You know, why is everything so tough for me? Because God wants to make you tough. I want to make you like Daniel, to where you'll stand up to anyone. But it doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen without a little bit of pain, just like me as a Marine. Look, you know, I'm going to be a smart Marine, but you'll be a strong Marine. Why? I had to deal with some pain and discomfort to toughen me up to it. You know, I always go back to the Marines because I say, look, that's what I know. You know, the funniest thing, in the Marine Corps, one of the last things you have to do as an infantryman, you have to do a 12-mile hump. You have to do a 12-mile march. So everyone's like, oh, what is it? It's a nature walk. It's a nature walk with 80 pounds of stuff on your back, with 80 of your friends who are all miserable, doing it in the heat of the day as fast as you can possibly go. Has anyone ever gone on a 10-mile walk? Yeah, you hurt. Your feet hurt. Everything hurts. Now do it with 85 pounds of junk on you. And a flak jacket that does nothing but make you hot and hold every ounce of water you sweated out. You start at the beginning, it's 5 pounds. At the end, it's about 20. It's full of all your sweat. You have to do that before you graduate. But you don't do it the first day. You do lots of conditioning hikes. You do lots of 1 and 2 miles. I remember being in boot camp and being like, oh, hey, it's only 2 more miles back to home, which was a tent, and thinking, oh, we're almost there. This is nothing. Because I've been on my feet all day. And I'm used to it. And my body's conditioned to it. My wife can tell you, I came home and I had thighs that were just like rocks. Not anymore. Now my butt's developed, but my thighs aren't, all right? You develop the muscles you use. But you condition to it. This is what happened. Daniel got conditioned to this stuff. He knew God's going to protect him. He's going to go through that apathy, that rejection, maybe feeling abandoned by everybody else, but knowing God's going to get him through. Our life as Christians, we need to be able to do the same and understand that it's going to get tough sometimes. Sometimes everything's stacked against you. Look, Daniel didn't do anything in all of this that he hadn't been doing his entire life. I've been great for the king loves me, all this. You all hate me. But all I've done is protect you and make you more powerful, and yet you still hate me. God, what do I got to do? Is it worth it? Why don't I just do what they ask? I'm tired of it. But no. He decided, look, I'm going to follow God. God's going to get me through that hard time. I'm going to come back out on the other side and be even stronger. Yet again, proving who God is, who the king, who I don't even align with, knows who God is and is going to use his power to punish you. It's not even going to have to be me. Sure, a lot of times when things come against us as Christians, we don't have to do anything about it. People will beat themselves up, other people will take care of it, and God will take care of it. That's the beauty. God says, look, if someone does evil against you, they're throwing tinder upon themselves on their own fire. Sometimes you look and be like, I'm normal. I want to get back at people, right? It's like, whoo! I'm not going to do it. But I'm kind of enjoying the fact that I know God's going to do it. And it happens. It happens. You realize that the king got after all these people? Daniel didn't have to lift a finger. Daniel didn't have to do anything. Daniel didn't get his hands dirty. The king did. And God used the king to do it. Eventually, God got rid of the king. He said, you're no good. God will always get us through those hard times. God will bring us to a place of peace. Realize it doesn't happen in one day. That we're going to have to go through many, many trials. Look, life is a series of peaks and valleys. Man, God's looking after me. Everything's great. My life is great. Everything's perfect. Well, that's awesome. Rejoice. Enjoy it. But if you're on a mountaintop, where you got to go from there? You got to go down. You have to. You're going to go down. You're going to go through that valley. You're going to go through that rough time. And then you're going to come up again. Now, God always says, look, either you just came out of a trial, or you're in the middle of a trial, or you're about to head into one. That's the way it works. Why? Because I'm going to make you tougher. You may not be a smart Christian, but you're going to be a strong Christian. How am I going to do it? Well, there's going to be some trials. It's going to be tough. I'm going to put you in the pit, make you do some push-ups, make you deal with it. Why? You might not be a smart Christian, but you'll be a strong Christian. And a strong Christian can get stuff done. It's all going to happen. Life is tough. It's even tougher when you're stupid. So let's not be stupid. Let's follow God. Let's follow the guy that's in charge of it all. Let's follow the guy that has the design, who built everything, who knows everything, who knows what it takes to protect you and has he has what's better for you in mind. I mean, how many of us have had a great idea? I've sketched out how life's going to go. Has it gone that way for any of us? And I told my daughter, she just graduated college. I said, no, what you're going to learn, you're entering adulthood. And what you're going to learn is, thus far, you've just been kind of winging it, right? Well, guess what? Welcome to adulthood. We're all just winging it. We've just been winging it longer, so we look more comfortable doing it. We don't know what's going to happen. All we know is we can put our faith in God. God has the answers. God has what's better for us. Let's follow God and knowing that, yes, there's going to be trial. There's going to be that fiery furnace. There's going to be that lion's den. There's going to be hey, you're not doing everything like the rest of us. No, we're not. But what happened all throughout Daniel's life? God protected him. He elevated him. He made everything better. And the reason he did it is because Daniel never strayed from God. Realize in all these stories, we talk about just this handful. How many Hebrew children did they kidnap? Thousands and thousands. We hear about 4 who stood for God. A lot are going to go by the wayside, unfortunately, and it's a very sad story when you think about it. But those 4 that stood for God, what happened? They were elevated. God used them as an example. God made sure their stories ended up in the Bible. We're reading about them thousands of years later. About these men. We always call them the heroes of the Bible. Who are the heroes of the Bible? They're just normal guys. They're normal people who made mistakes, who did stupid things. God still used them. God can use each and every one of us, but we need to settle in our heart that we're going to follow God. We're going to do what God's asked us to do. And in this little story of the lion's den, we just see that, yeah, it's not always going to be comfortable. And there's going to be danger. And there's going to be apathy. And there's going to be fear. But God said, look, I will send my comforter. I sent the angel for you. I'm going to bring you out of this. I'm going to make you better from this. But you need to trust me. Yes, ma'am.